Okay, so this is part 5 of our Unit 1, selecting an instrument. This part is percussion. We're talking about the percussion instruments and what that means exactly. So this section is a little different. The part 2, which was woodwinds, part 3, brass, and part 4, electric bass. Each of those I showed you, well, except for the bass, I showed you various instruments, right? I showed you several different instruments. And those instruments, you would pick one of those, and we ranked them. Like so, at this point, hopefully you have a ranking of first all the woodwinds, then all the brass, and then you've got your string bass. It helps to write this down or to type it on a document, and to go through this and think about this a little bit systematically. So, this section with the percussion, if you choose percussion, you actually are required to play all of the percussion. Percussionists play everything. They don't just play just the snare drum or just the bells, or just the bass drum, or whatever, okay? They play all of it. Percussionists play everything. And because there's so much involved with percussion, I usually require or request students to have had piano lessons before they do percussion. Now that's not a 100% requirement. It kind of depends on who wants to do it, how it all works out. But I would highly recommend, if you want to do percussion, to have had piano lessons or to plan on taking piano lessons. And I'll explain a little further why that's important in the future. But so we'll start off with some. I'll just show you some of the percussion instruments. I don't have them on at my house, as you can tell, with all of these things going on. I haven't been able to go to the school, so I'm at my house, and so I'll show you what I have here, kind of what you start out with in beginning band. Anyhow, so beginning band, we start out with snare drum and the bells kit, and that's where we start. We start with those two only in beginning band. So the first probably 6 weeks of band, that's all we do is snare drum and bells, but we do rotate them one day after the other. So first, let's talk about the snare drum. So I have right here a snare drum. I'll hold it up so you can see it a little bit. Snare drum looks like this. It comes on a stand that goes on the ground, and percussionists stand when they play. Almost all the other instruments sit when they play. Percussionists stand. And now it's called the snare drum because on the bottom we have these snares right here. And those snares are attached to the bottom of the head. Well, they're attached to the drum, but they're down there so that when we play the snare drum, it gets that snare sound, okay? Now, sometimes they'll have you take the snares off. So they have a little action right here that turns the snares off, and it just sounds like a drum. And then we turn them on. These ones are a little loose. I'm going to tighten them up just a little. See if it'll sound a little better. Yeah, a little better. And that's the snare drum, okay? And you play by holding sticks. These are drumsticks. And you hold them in your hand, and I'll show you when we get to how to play these instruments, how to hold them. There is a proper way and an improper way, lots of improper ways, okay? And there's a proper way to play, which type of strokes to use, and we'll show you how to do all of that, okay? That's the snare drum. So I'm going to show you the bells next. And in order to do that, I only have one stand, which most kits come with only one stand. And I'll show you the kit in a second. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to take this off. And switch it out for the bells. Now, so you have a little stand like this. It's different than the snare one. But it fits into the same base so that you can play it. Okay, and then here's the bells. So this is a set of bells. The technical name is Glockenspiel, which is just a fancy name to say orchestra bells. It's a German name. So you place this on here. Make sure you get it on there correctly so that it's sturdy and doesn't fall. Okay. So now I have it on there. Got to adjust the height, make sure it's high enough. We'll talk about how to set these up in on the other videos and in class so that they're set up correctly. And we don't use drumsticks with the orchestra bells. We use mallets, okay? And there's also a specific way to hold this. Then we play the orchestra bells. Notice it rings for a really long time. If I hit one, and then I can touch it and stop that vibration, which stops the sound. And that's the bells. And so when I talked about needing to do piano lessons, part of it is because if you've done piano lessons, you've already learned how to read some music, understand how to read rhythms a little bit to play piano. And so it just gives you a good general base of musical knowledge to start off playing all these different instruments. But also, when you play the bells, you'll notice, if you think of these all as black keys, these top ones, and these bottoms all as white keys, you'll notice that it looks just like a piano. Okay? And so if you already can play piano a little bit, this will be a piece of cake. You'll know exactly what each note is and how to play it. And if you don't, then everything's new. And if everything's new, then you've got a lot to learn. So again, that's not a 100% requirement that you play piano before you can do percussion, but it's just a really big help to you who play percussion. So just something to think about. So that's the bells, and both of these instruments actually come together in a kit. Okay, I'm going to show you the bag. It's not really a bag, it's more like a suitcase. You know, like sometimes you have suitcases with wheels? That's what this kind of is. And the snare drum fits in here, and then you close this and zip it up. And then this whole thing opens up, and the bells fit in there, and the stands for both fit in this whole case. And then you can wheel it around and use it. Now, we will use these in band for the first little while, and then after a while we'll use pretty much primarily school instruments. And so it's really helpful to have one of these kits at home, because you're not going to be taking our school instruments home, because these ones are a little harder to transport, the school percussion instruments. So having this at home would mean that you are able to practice at home and to be able to play the bells. And you can practice, let's say you have a part on a xylophone or a marimba, well, you can practice it on your bells at home. And then when you get to school, you can play it on those other instruments, and you'd be set. And let's say you have a snare drum part at school. Well, you can practice it on your snare drum at home, and then come to school and be ready to play. And so that's kind of how it goes. So when you start, if you're doing percussion, that's what you would get. You would get what we call a percussion kit, or a bells and snare combo kit. Okay, you can get them separately, but then there's two separate cases. It's kind of nice having them all in one case. So that's percussion. And again, all percussionists play all of the percussion instruments, and they stand when they play, and that's kind of how percussion works. So we're going to go to the next video and talk more about all of the instruments and how to select them. So see me on the next video.